Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Tobey'S Talkshow. This is episode number 23, and today we are talking about the NBA. But first, I do want to apologize because I didn't get to post a video last week. That is my fault. I am a junior in high school, so I am very busy, even though we are still in quarantine. So sometimes I just couldn't get a video up. And also, last week I had some trouble thinking of ideas, but seeing all this NBA controversy on Instagram, with, is the NBA season going to continue? Charles Barkley and Shaq saying they should cancel it. Mark Cuban standing up for the NBA, or not for the NBA, but Mark Cuban saying that, we should try maybe to start it, or he wants the NBA to start, and obviously all these players want the NBA to resume. I thought it'd be interesting to look to see and predict if the NBA went straight into the playoffs, what would happen. So obviously this means that teams like the Kings, Blazers, Wizards, all these teams that maybe be fighting for a playoff spot, they don't get the chance. But I mean, it is what it is. There was a virus that we couldn't control, and we missed 2 months of basketball. So that is what we are going to do today. I'm going to predict every single series, and we're going to see who I think is the champion if the playoffs were to happen. So let's get right into it. Actually, before we do get right into it, I do want to say we have to remember that, if the NBA were to resume, there would be the NBA teams that are still in the playoff teams would play in one area, probably in like Las Vegas or Florida, and there would be no fans. So, home court advantage isn't that much of an issue for the lower seeds because there really isn't a home court advantage. They probably won't be playing, these teams probably won't be playing on their home courts. They will probably be playing at one court that they all share, in an area that they probably aren't used to. So let's get right into it we're going to start with the Western Conference, go through it all, and then we'll see let's see who gets out of the Western Conference Finals and makes it to the finals. And we'll do the same thing with the Eastern side, and we'll see who makes it out of the Eastern Conference Finals, and then we will see the finals matchup, and then I will talk about it and discuss who I believe would be the champion if the season were to continue. So let's get right into it with the Western Conference, starting with the Los Angeles Lakers, the 1 seed versus the 8 seeded Memphis Grizzlies. So let's first look and see, their games that they played in the regular season. So the Lakers have won 3 out of the 4 games against the Grizzlies. And I don't think this Lakers-Grizzlies matchup should take me long. I think we all know who would probably win this matchup. And I think it is the Lakers, and let me discuss why. The reason why I think the Lakers would win, A is pretty obvious. They have someone named Lebron James, one of the best players of all time, who doesn't like to lose in the playoffs and won't let his team lose if he's in the playoffs. The last 8 times he's been in the playoffs, he didn't make it last year, but he was injured. The last 8 times he made it to the finals. And the Grizzlies team is also very young. You have Ja Morant, who is going to be a great player in the league, don't get me wrong. But that doesn't mean he can handle, the playoff intensity, because you have to remember, even though there won't be fans and the energy will be a lot different, LeBron James knows he's in the playoffs, and LeBron James knows that this may be his last year to really compete for a championship until he starts to regress and start to get a little worse as he gets, to that point of being a little too old to be such the superstar he is. So I think, Ja Morant, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson, these are all very young players who will be very good in the league, and I think the Grizzlies team can be a top team in the league in a few years. However, they aren't there yet. It was kind of like the Nuggets last year. The Nuggets were a very good team. I think they were the 2nd seed, but we knew that they were still a very young team, and they couldn't even make it to the Western Conference Finals. They had Jokic, Murray, and we'll discuss the Nuggets a little later, but it's kind of the same thing. Younger teams, they need playoff experience first before they start making noise, and I think that's one of the big reasons why the Grizzlies are going to lose in this first round, and also the Lakers have too much star power. I think this series would be a 4-0 sweep. I will also predict kind of how many games each team would win in. So next, the 2-seeded Clippers versus the 7th-seeded Mavericks. So because of the virus, they only got to play 3 games, and the Clippers were 2-1 in those games. Is this surprising? No. Do I think something would happen like that if they were to play? Yes. So let me explain. So that means if you multiplied 2 wins and 1 loss, you'd get 4 wins and 2 losses, which is what the Clippers need to win the series. If that doesn't make sense, I'll take a step back. I think the Clippers' depth is just too much for the Mavericks. The Mavericks aren't, they don't have a lot of depth on their team. They have a superstar in Luka Doncic, and that's why I think if Luka Doncic is really on his game and shows out, then I think the Mavericks could sneak in a few wins and win 1 or 2 games. But I think with the star power that the Clippers have as well with Kawhi and Paul George, and also the depth they have, and you're comparing it to a Mavericks team who also doesn't have Dwight Powell because of an injury, an injured Kristaps Porzingis, injury prone, who has been injured throughout the year, and just not a great team overall. I think the Clippers would win this one pretty easily. I think, like I said 2-1 times 2. Just like in the regular season, I think Luka Doncic could take 2 games from the Clippers. So I will say that the Clippers would win 4-2. I just think the Clippers team is just too much for the Mavericks. Next, we have probably my favorite series in the first round, and that is the Nuggets versus the Rockets, the 3-seeded Nuggets versus the 6-seeded Rockets. So this is a pretty star-heavy matchup. You have James Harden, Jokic, and Russell Westbrook. And the Nuggets also have a very good team. They have Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, Mason Plumlee, and the Rockets. They're doing their small ball lineup still. Actually, we don't know that. Maybe they'll change it. There's been 2 months. Maybe Daryl Morey, Mike D'Antoni, they've been thinking about it. But let's pretend that they are still going with the small ball lineup. This team, the Rockets team, is very good. And, seeds 3 through 6, that was kind of a mix. That was kind of, the last 20 games, it could have been deciding to see. The Rockets could have jumped to 3, or they could have dropped to 7, or they could have been at 5. There were very few games in between the 3 to 6/7 seeds. I think the Rockets, they are a lot better of a team than a 6-seed team. When people look back in history and they go, oh my God, the Rockets were the 6th seed last year, but they really weren't. The Rockets, when they first started the small ball lineup, they were on fire. They won a lot of games. They beat the Lakers, which was very impressive. I think their first game doing the small ball lineup. And then they started losing. They lost to the Knicks, and then they lost, I believe, 4 more after that in a row. However, even though James Harden is known for choking in the playoffs, even though Russell Westbrook is known for choking in the playoffs, I think that even though they do choke, they have the playoff experience. The Nuggets as a team, they've been there once. Paul Millsap's really the only guy there that has real playoff experience when he was with the Hawks. And I think that may be a big factor. And I think, when you look at it, the Rockets and Nuggets are tied 2-2. And I think this will be a very close series, honestly. I don't think this will be a blowout by either team. However, I do like the Rockets in this series. I can't really explain why, because if anything, I think it all makes sense that the Nuggets would win. I just think James Harden and Russell Westbrook will prove, the haters or, the analysts wrong. And I think that they're going to show up this series, and I think they're going to beat the Nuggets. I think the small ball lineup may work with the Nuggets. Paul Millsap at the 4, he isn't the greatest 4, and I think that could be very helpful for their small ball lineup, even though Jokic is a monster. Don't get me wrong. But you could put a PJ Tucker on Jokic, because PJ Tucker could also play the perimeter, which a lot of centers can't. And that's where Jokic takes advantage a lot of the times. And with PJ Tucker, he's a very good perimeter defender, as we know. And I think that also could be a big factor in this thing. I think the Rockets would win 4-2 or 4-3. Like I said, I think it would be very, very close. But also remember, there's no home court advantage. So if it goes to 7, the Nuggets don't have their fans cheering for them. And that's why I think the Rockets may win. Home court advantage doesn't matter. You have to remember that. And I think, I don't think James Harden and Russell Westbrook will have that same pressure, because the playoffs are going to be looking very different this year if they were to happen. And that is why I believe the Rockets would move on. Now, the last Western Conference first round matchup we have is the Thunder. It would be the 4-seeded Jazz versus the 5-seeded Thunder. So this is a very interesting matchup. And I say this because the Thunder, I believe, are a very interesting team. A lot of people, a lot of analysts didn't think they would be in the playoffs at all. I think when I did it, when I predicted the standings, I think I had them in the 9th seed. I knew they were going to be not terrible. I think a lot of people knew that. I think some people thought that they were going to be terrible, though. But I knew that they had a chance, and they exceeded a lot of people's expectations, including mine, and they were the 5th seed. Even though, like I said, 3-7 was very close. So it sucks that it had to be cut right there, because we don't know what could have happened in the next 17, 16 games remaining. Like, the Jazz are 41-23, and the Thunder are 40-24, very close. The Rockets are 40-24, the Nuggets are 43-22, Mavericks are 40-27. So, 3-7 is all 3 games apart, which is kind of crazy. But let's get back to the Thunder and the Jazz. we know what happened with the Jazz with the virus. We know that Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, even though people are saying that their relationship will be back to normal, we don't know that, and that could start some problems. I don't know if the Jazz, their chemistry will be there. Also, the Jazz, even though they're the 4th seed, they don't have home court advantage, so you have to take that away as well. I think Chris Paul, Shai, I think the Thunder have a very good team. I think Chris Paul, with his veteran experience, with all the experience he has, the Thunder, or the Jazz, I think Donovan Mitchell's been in the playoffs twice, but we know Chris Paul's been there a lot more times than that. And I just think I think Shai gets better every single day, and I think just the Thunder team is honestly a better overall team. I think their chemistry is a lot greater than the Jazz, and that's why I have the Thunder winning in 7 as well. I just think the Jazz, I think they have the more star power with Gobert and Mitchell. However, I do think that the Thunder are a better overall team. Even though the Jazz do have a very good team, I like the Thunder in this matchup for some reason. Let's say 4-2-3. So now we are in the Western semifinals. So let's look at the first matchup, which is the 1-seeded Rockets. Oh, sorry, let me say first, the Thunder and Jazz, they only played 2 games, and the Jazz won the first game, and the Thunder won the second game, so it is 1-1. So like I said, it's very, very close. I don't really know who would win. Next, the next matchup we have is the 1-seeded Lakers versus the 6-seeded Rockets. So like I said before, the Rockets did steal a game. They only played 3 games due to the virus, and the Lakers won 1, and the Rockets won 1. I think the Lakers would figure out how to corrupt the small ball lineup, and I think against the Rockets, I just think this star power, I think that LeBron is going to be a different animal in these playoffs. I think LeBron, if he's given the chance to win one more ring, or at least have a very good shot at it, I think he's going to go full force. I don't see LeBron losing to the Rockets. I don't. I'll say it right away. I think the Lakers, I think LeBron at least would find a way to get through the small ball lineup and figure it out. And I just think LeBron and AD is just too much for that Rockets team, too big. I think the Lakers team is really too big, and I think the Rockets may have won 1 game using that, but when you go 7 games, I think the Lakers soon will figure out that plan, especially after the first or second game. You start to figure out, what do they keep on doing in these games, and I think that's going to hurt the Rockets. And I think the Lakers are going to win 4-2 because of those reasons I just stated. I think James Harden and Russell Westbrook also, they are known to choke, and like I said, even though I thought that they weren't going to choke in the last series, you never know what happens, and I think that also could be a factor. So I do have the Lakers moving on to the Western Conference Finals 4-2. I'm going to try to hurry this up a little bit because I know this was going to be a long video. I know you guys do like the long videos, however, I do not want you guys to sit here for 45 minutes listening to me talk about playoffs that may never happen. So the next matchup we have is the 2-seeded Clippers versus the 5-seeded Thunder. I love Chris Paul. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I am a fan of the Thunder. I do like their team. However, I do think the depth and the star power of the Clippers is just too much for them. Even though the Clippers don't have the home court advantage, I think that in the 3 games they played, the Clippers won 2 of them. And I think the Thunder do have a fighter's chance against the Clippers. I think they may have even more than just a fighter's chance against the Clippers. However, I don't think they have the greatest chance due to the depth and star power the Clippers have, and I think the Clippers will also can outcoach the Thunder. I would take Doc Rivers over Billy Donovan any day, and for those reasons, I'm taking the Clippers 4-2 in the Western semifinals. And so now we are in the Western Conference Finals with the matchup that most people are most likely predicting. You may have the Nuggets or Rockets in there, but most people, just like me, have Lakers, Clippers, Western Conference Finals. This is probably the toughest. I obviously thought about each matchup beforehand, and this was definitely the toughest matchup to figure out who I thought would win. The Clippers and Lakers have played 2 times, with the Lakers winning the first game. The Clippers and Lakers played 3 times, with the Clippers winning the first 2 games, and the Lakers winning the 3rd game. I don't really look at the regular season, like I said. I like to look at it just to see, if a team wins all 4 games, then that may prove something. But I think with the Lakers and Clippers, I think it's going to be a whole different thing. You have two of the clutchest players in the league going at it. Two of the most clutchest players in the playoffs going at it with LeBron and Kawhi. The playoffs, like I said, are a different animal. And these guys, both of them, obviously last year we know Kawhi what he did, and LeBron we know what he's done in the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We know these guys go different in the playoffs. And I think it's going to be very hard, to figure out who would win. I think if I say the Lakers, I think Clippers fans and Clippers supporters are going to go at me. I think if I say the Lakers, I think the Clippers, because no one really knows. I think everyone is set on who they think would win. But I think it's very, very close. I think it's going to go to a Game 7 no matter what. I just feel like there's no way a team wins in 6 against the two best teams probably in the league. And I don't want to say who I have yet, but I do want to say I just think the Clippers team overall, I think the Lakers didn't do enough in the regular season, especially in the trade deadline, to grab my attention. Sure, Dion Waiters was an okay pickup, but the Clippers, they knew what they were doing. They traded for Marcus Morris. They signed Reggie Jackson. They signed Joakim Noah. They're all in. They're ready. They wanted to win a ring this year, and I thought they had a very good chance to. And I just think Kawhi, even though he hasn't talked much, he hasn't really expressed what he's feeling. I think when it's playoffs time, he's locked in. He's ready to go. I think Paul George, I think he'll be ready to go for the playoffs. I think this 2-month break will really help him because he has been injury prone. But I think this 2-month break will definitely help him. And I just think the Clippers' depth is just too much. I'm sorry, I love LeBron. I think he would make it to the Western Conference Finals, but I don't see him going any further. I have the Clippers winning in 7. I just think Kawhi and their depth of that Clippers team is just too much for that Lakers team. Obviously, you could play LeBron James 45 minutes, but he's going to tire you out. You can't play 35, 36-year-old that much time. And the Lakers bench compared to the Clippers bench is silly. Like I said, Reggie Jackson. I don't know if Marcus Morris is going to start or Patrick Beverley is going to start. So let's say Marcus Morris off the bench. Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, Joakim Noah, JaMychal Green. That's scary. And then for the Lakers, you have, I don't know who starts for the Lakers because I know Kuzma comes in and out, but you have Caruso, let's say Avery Bradley, Danny Green, Kuzma, Anthony Davis, and LeBron start. You have Caruso off the bench, Dwight Howard, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. That's an okay bench, but that's not compared to the Clippers. It's nowhere near that. And I know you can play starters with the bench, but I don't know. I don't see it. I have the Clippers winning in 7. You guys could debate with me down below. Let me know. And now we'll go to the Eastern Conference side, and we will discuss that. I'm going to try to do this a little quicker, but let's see. Okay, so the first matchup we have is the Bucks and the Magic. The Bucks won all 4 games against the Magic, and let's be real, the Bucks are just going to walk through the Magic. The Magic have no hope. The Bucks have 2 All-Stars. The Magic have none. The Bucks have a Coach of the Year candidate. The Magic do not. The Bucks have a better team roster overall. The Magic don't have a great team. Bucks all the way. We can move on pretty quickly. Next, we have the Nets versus Raptors. Same thing here. The Nets, if they had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving back, then sure. But both of them will definitely not play in this series if it were to happen in the next month or 2. And sure, Spencer Dinwiddie. Okay, well, the Bucks would win 4-0. I don't know if I said that, but we'll make that sure. And with the Nets Raptors, Kevin Durant, Kyrie not playing, it's not going to be close. Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, DeAndre Jordan, Jared Allen, they may steal a game from the Raptors, just like the Nets stole a game last year against the Sixers, but I just don't see it. I don't think they really have. I think they have a fighter's chance. So I will say 4-1 Raptors. I think the Raptors have the Coach of the Year candidate in Nick Nurse. I think he will win Coach of the Year. They have a better overall team. They have an all-star in Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry. So they have 2 all-stars, and the Nets at this point, without KD and Kyrie, have 0. I don't think it's going to be close. Raptors move on. Now, the most interesting series in what I believe is going to be the most interesting series in the Eastern side in the first round is the Celtics and the Sixers. So the first thing you have to remember is that the Sixers are not a good away team. They were a very, very good team when they were home. I think they lost 2 games out of 35. But when they're away, they are terrible. They are below average team when they are away. And the Sixers and Celtics, And as you know, with the virus, they probably won't be playing at home, and they probably won't be near their home, and they won't have their fans, and they won't have that same energy, and that may hurt them. However, what will help them with the virus is that they will get Simmons and Embiid back fully healthy. The Celtics, on the other hand, they'll be fully healthy as well, and they are a team that, they do well at home, but they also do well away. So that's not much of a problem as it is for the Sixers for the Celtics. And for that reason, I think the Celtics will move on. I think the Sixers will definitely, make some noise. I don't think they're going to just go away lightly. However, I just think the Celtics, have a better team overall. I think they have a better coach. I think Brett Brown will be outcoached once again. I think it's time for Brett Brown to go. And I think also the fact that Simmons can't shoot. I think at the playoffs, teams really focus on that, and that hurts the Sixers a lot, especially in the Raptors series. You saw what happened. They focused on letting Simmons do his thing until he got into the paint, then they collapsed. And for those reasons, I think the Celtics will win in 6. Next, we have the 4-seeded Heat versus the 5-seeded Pacers. And this is interesting. Obviously, this would be a battle. We know the T.J. Warren, Jimmy Butler fight that we never got to see another matchup, which does stink because I would love to see Jimmy Butler and T.J. Warren go at it. Hopefully not physically, just go, and hopefully they both drop 30 and hopefully one of them hits a game winner or something. That would probably be the best case scenario. However, we didn't get to see that, and if anything, we'd probably jump right into the playoffs. Before I do that, I'm just going to say that the Sixers have won 3 out of the 4 games against the Celtics. However, they were home for 2 of those games, and they did win 1 game away, but however, I still have the Celtics winning. Heat Pacers, let me jump back to that. The Heat won both games against the Pacers. One of them was a 1-point game. And I like the Pacers a lot. If Victor Oladipo was completely healthy, this may be a different conversation. Because if you have Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis with Miles Turner and with Malcolm Brogdon, this could be a different story. However, just because I think Victor Oladipo, even though he's having this 2-month break, I just think he won't be. I think the basketball shape, I think he'll be back. I just think that it's going to take a little bit more time than 2-3 months for him to be back to where he used to be. And I think that may hurt the Pacers team overall. We saw he was averaging 14 to 17 points around there in the teens, which is good, but not what he was averaging. He was averaging 22 points a few years back. And I think that could be a difference maker because I think if the Pacers had a healthy, fully back Victor Oladipo, this could be a different conversation. However, I think that Jimmy Butler, even though the Heat's a very young team, I do have the Heat moving on just because I think Jimmy Butler is a leader, and I think he knows how to inspire people, and I think he could lead his team to the second round, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do. The next matchup we have is the 1-seeded Bucks against the 4-seeded Heat. This is a very interesting matchup. The Heat won the past 2 games against the Bucks in the regular season, and it seemed like the Heat have Giannis's number. We know last year that when the Raptors and Bucks play in the Eastern Conference Finals, we know that the Raptors knew how poor Giannis's shooting ability was, and they took full control of that situation. And Giannis was not as good as he was in the other series and in the regular season as he was against the Raptors. They held him down and they made sure he couldn't dominate the game. And I think the Heat know how to do that, and they did that in these past 2 games. They really stopped Giannis. I don't know their scheme. I don't know how they did it, but I do know that they focused on letting him shoot more and not letting him drive to the basket. And when he did drive to the basket, they all collapsed, just like teams do with Ben Simmons. However, I just think the Heat's team is just too young at this point. The regular season, like I said, is a different game than the postseason. Even though Jimmy Butler is a great leader, I do have the Bucks moving on. I think the Bucks team is overall better, and I think even though Eric Spoelstra is a great coach, I think Giannis will be able to get through whatever defensive scheme the Heat is running. I think Mike Budenholzer will figure out the scheme that they're running and change his offense to help. Because remember, it's 7 games, so even if the Heat win the first game, they could figure out their scheme and change it right away, and it could be a different ball game. So I do have the Bucks winning. I think Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn. These are all very young players. Bam Adebayo, who haven't really seen the playoffs, and for that reason, I do have the Bucks moving on. The other series in the Eastern Conference semis is the Raptors and the Celtics. In the regular season, the Celtics won 2 out of the 3 games against the Raptors. However, I do think the postseason will be a different story. I think the Raptors team is going to surprise a lot of people, and I think that Pascal Siakam, I think a lot of these guys like Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, even Terrence Davis, I think these guys are going to step up to the plate. And even though I do like the Celtics, I think Nick Nurse is a really good coach, and I think he'll make some schemes that will stop the Celtics. I do think the Raptors will win this series, and I have them winning 4-3. I think it's going to be Game 7. I think these teams are very close, skill-wise, roster-wise. However, I do think that the Raptors are going to find a way to pull it out. That's just my gut feeling. So the Eastern Conference Finals, we have the Bucks and the Raptors. So the Bucks and Raptors, 2 very good teams. The Bucks last year, they made it to this spot, and they played the Raptors. This is going to be an Eastern Conference Finals rematch. However, I do have a different outcome. I think the Raptors, without Kawhi Leonard, I think they'll still be a very good team. I think, like I said, they'll make it to this spot, Eastern Conference Finals, which is very good. However, I just think that the loss of Kawhi will affect them overall, and in the end, I don't think they'll have the star power that the Bucks have, especially with Giannis. Even though the Raptors know how to stop Giannis, I just think that Giannis is going to find a way, especially without Kawhi there, to take over the game. I just don't think you can put Pascal on Giannis. I don't think you can put anyone on Giannis, honestly, which is why I do have the Bucks winning. I have the Bucks winning in 6, like the Raptors won in 6. I have the Bucks winning in 6. The Raptors won in 6 last year. The Bucks are going to win in 6 this year, is my prediction. I think Giannis is getting older and is getting, that playoff experience is getting better. And I think this is a year where Giannis wants to prove himself as the best player in the world. And I think that's why he's going to turn it on, especially later in the Eastern Conference Finals, and beat the Raptors in 6. Lastly, we have the finals. If everything I said was true, we would have the Clippers and the Bucks in the finals, and that would be a crazy finals to watch. So I thought very deeply about who I thought would win, because this is it. Like, this is who wins the championship. This is my championship prediction. I think when I look at these 2 teams, you have Kawhi, who knows Giannis very well from last year, and then you compare Chris Middleton to Paul George. You start comparing the superstars and then the all-stars and the players, and when I look at it, I just think really the Clippers' depth is too much. I think this Clippers team is a really good team, and I think people are looking at LeBron and AD and thinking that they can take over, and they can, but you have to remember that basketball is also a team sport, and you need the depth, and you need the 9th and 10th man to step up, because you never know who could hit the final shot. You have, if you guys watch the MJ documentary, Tony Kukoc stepped up. He wasn't the best player on the team. He was the 3rd, 4th best player on the Bulls for most of his time there, and he was the one that hit that shot. So you got to look at it, and you start comparing. I just think Paul George is better than Chris Middleton, and I think that the Clippers' depth is too good, and I think Doc Rivers, I think these Clippers put too much energy and too much, assets into this team, and I just don't think they're going to lose. I think this is their year. I think they know that, and I think if they get past the Lakers, I think they feel that as they could beat anyone, and I think that momentum going up after beating the Lakers and then placing the Bucks, I think that's too much. The Clippers, the Bucks beat the Clippers twice this year, one by 5 points, and then the other one by 28. They blew them out. However, I do think, like I said, the regular season is a completely different thing than the playoffs. Giannis has never been to the finals. He doesn't know what it's like. We don't know what the finals are going to look like this year. However, I do think that the Clippers are going to pull it out. Due to the depth, I think Doc Rivers will outcoach. He has the finals experience. Budenholzer really doesn't. He made the Eastern Conference Finals. Budenholzer with the Hawks. But that's as far as he's gone. And I just think that, the finals experience the Clippers have and the depth they have is going to be too much for these Bucks. And that means I think the Clippers would win the NBA championship if the NBA were to resume. So this was a longer video, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun making this, trying to figure out who would win what series, looking at matchups. And yeah, let me know who you guys think would win the NBA finals down below, and let me know if your team made it farther than you thought that I would rank them, or maybe you thought that if you're a Pacers fan, you thought you'd make it to the second round at least, but you didn't. So let me know down below your thoughts on my predictions, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.